So in this video, we will start from a fundamental space in order to spring forward and evolve into our class. So today's lesson is entitled Clauses, Transitions, and Paragraphs. Oh my! If you know Wizard of Oz, you'll recognize that. First thing I want you to do is to please open up this document called Basic Parts of Speech. And we'll have a little reminder here. So, basic parts of speech. Now, let me float on top, and we are ready, Freddy. So, a reminder, we start with a noun, right? A person, place, or thing. A person could be the boy, a place could be a store, a thing could be a book, right? And we must also remember that we have a common nouns. Common nouns are more general nouns, and we have proper nouns, and those are more specific nouns. So, common nouns are lowercase. And of course, just like the ones that we mentioned a moment ago, so the boy, even though it keeps capitalizing on its own, but the boy, store, right, book, and proper nouns are more specific nouns, and those are always capitalized. So if we were to be more specific, like the boy named Daniel, right? So let's put here examples. So of course Daniel is a name. It's a specific boy. It's a specific person, right? Proper noun. Names are proper nouns. What else? Store. What about Target, right? It's a specific store. A book. We don't have to go far, right? The power of a habit. So, and that is capitalized, as you can see. By the way, we can underline that we're going to talk about how to actually label our sources, whether to underline or use quotation marks down the line. So stay tuned for that. But that is one thing I wanted us to remember, that there are common nouns and proper nouns. Common nouns are more general and proper are more specific. Commons are lowercase and proper nouns are of course capitalized. What about this one, guys? What about the word professor? What do you think? Is the word professor a common noun or a proper noun? Pause it and literally say out loud what you think. Well, if you said common noun, then you are correct because it is not specific. But let's say you were to say somebody specific, right? Like myself, right? Professor Godoy, of course, is capitalized. This is a proper noun. It's more specific, right? What about this one? What about the word doctor? What do you think? Pause the video and say out loud what you think. Is doctor common noun or proper noun? If you said common noun, you are correct because it is general unless you add a last name. Like, for example, Dr. Garcia, right? That would be capitalized. So that's one thing to remember, our common nouns and our proper nouns. Let's move on. So the next thing we see on our parts of speech, of course, is our adjective, and that describes the noun, right? So what about person? We can probably say, okay, let's go ahead and use this. We'll keep doing that. So we'll do adjectives. Describe a noun, right? So if we were going to say a boy, so I don't know, smart boy. Smart boy. Of course, smart is describing the boy, right? The other one too. Let's go ahead and try maybe store, expensive store, right? So the word expensive is describing the store. So remember that. Adjectives describe a noun. Now, similarly, just as much as adjectives describe a noun, we're going to move on to something else that is very important in sentences, right? And in building sentences, and that is the verb, and that's the action. So an action, everything from, so let's see, verb is an action, everything from run, oh, pardon, everything from run, think, jump, spin, many things, right? Actions. I don't know why it keeps capitalizing the first one always, but anyway, some verbs. An action. So just as much as an adjective describes a noun, you know, we said the expensive store, the smart boy, then so too we have something analogous, and that is the adverb. So the adverb describes the verb. So how something is done, right? How something is done. Oftentimes adverbs end with ly at the end. That's a good way to remember, okay, this is probably an adverb right here. So how do you run? You can run quickly, right? Is our adverb describing how you can run. What about how you can jump? Let's see, jump. It stayed blue, didn't it? Oh, pardon. This is adverbs. Adverbs describe the action, often end in ly. So run quickly. We can jump rapidly, maybe. It kind of means something similar as quickly, right? So how do we do something? The other one that comes to mind is you can learn, right? You're learning quickly, maybe, or you're listening attentively, right? Listening attentively how you're doing something. Maybe you can be eating voraciously, right? How are you eating? Or eating slowly. Always the adverb describes the action, how something is done, right? Now, other thing we got to consider is in a sentence, something or someone is performing the action. Someone is doing the running, someone is doing the jumping, someone is doing it. And that is called the subject. The subject is who or what performs the action. And somebody receives that action, right? That is called an object. So I actually have a sentence that I wrote for us here, and we're going to identify different parts. So this morning I was rudely awakened by my hungry cat. Now let's think. Subject. Who or what is performing the action? Well, what's the action? Awakened, right? So let's go ahead and change that to this color. So we can say, right, oh, pardon. So we can say, of course, that, I don't know why I did that. Me no understand. But we can say this is the verb, of course. And who is doing the awakening? Who is waking up? This morning I was really awakened by my hungry cat. If you said the cat, then you are correct. The cat is waking up. Whoever is receiving the action, right? Let's go ahead and use this color. Don't mind the periods. So that is the subject. The cat is performing the action of doing the waking up. Who is receiving the action in this case? This morning, I was rudely awakened by my hungry cat. So we have that pronoun I. So because I, in this instance, is receiving the action of being woken up, so that is our object. Hope that helps, my friends. And, oh, look at this. Ends with the ly. Which one do you think it is? I was rudely awakened by my hungry cat. Adverb, of course. Our friend the adverb. So, rudely awakened. I hope this hasn't happened to you. It must be pretty annoying to be in REM sleep and be woken up, right, by your cat. All right, so of course this is our adverb, awaken. I hope this helps. These are our basic parts of speech. Feel free to rewatch this section for clarity if you have any questions. One last thing. I know we were talking about common nouns and proper nouns. Believe it or not, one I want to mention, I see this quite a bit, is seasons, right? Seasons actually are lowercase. So we have fall, winter, spring. But if we are going to be specific, like a semester that we're currently on, then that is capitalized. So fall 2024 semester, right? That's one thing I wanted to point out that oftentimes we can trip up on. So that is that. Let's continue. Now, for this next part, please be so kind as to open this part that says clause notes and follow along here. This will accompany our lesson. So let's proceed. All right, so we have talked about the makeup of sentences. We went to the smaller parts, right? Starting from nouns to adjectives to verbs to adverbs to subjects to objects. Now we talk about how we actually make a sentences, right? And that is through clauses. So with sentences, we're expressing an idea, right? And a clause is really just a group of words, not a Santa Claus, right? But a group of words. And we have either an independent clause or a dependent clause. As you know, independent is something that can stand on its own. So if we translate that to grammar, an independent clause has expressed a complete thought. It can stand on its own, right? We know who is performing the action. We know what the action is. It's a complete idea, such as what we have here, right? Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz. And now, conversely, a dependent clause, the word dependent means it cannot stand on its own, right? So if we're talking about grammar, a dependent clause cannot stand on its own. It's not expressing a complete thought. In fact, it often leaves us with a cliffhanger type feeling. We're left saying yes and like this one. When Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz, you're like, yes, well, what happened? Did a messy food fight erupt? I don't know, you tell me. Something happened, right? And what's interesting, if you guys can take a look, I'm going to go ahead and make that small. I was going to say, if you can go ahead and look here, we have something called dependent marker words or subordinating conjunctions. And it's marking a clause as dependent. And if we return here, you see when, something like when or because makes it a dependent clause. It leaves us like, okay, this is incomplete. When Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz. If we could just take off when, then it would be complete, right? A lot of times It's as easy as that. So pay attention to that and go ahead and check out some examples of dependent marker words. Now, let's move on. Oh, that's what we were just talking about, right? If you could just remove some of those, then you would be good. I say this because sometimes I have seen like a sentence that says, because I wanted to, or because I was hungry, right? So pay attention to that. All right, my friends. So next we're going to talk about how we can join these clauses, right? So independent, how we can work with these clauses to create sentences. The whole point of this lesson is to get you to see, gee, there's quite a bit that I can do with writing. There are a lot of tools that I can work with. We're going to talk about coordinating conjunctions and independent marker words. So the first one we'll talk about is coordinating conjunctions, or fanboys. This is our acronym for and, nor, but, or, yet, and, so. And what we do is, after our independent clauses, we can see here, we put a comma in one of the fanboys. So Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz, comma, but it was hard to concentrate because of the noise. Let's notice how we have joined these sentences together, right? And this is something neat that we can talk about, and it's types of sentences, their names, right? So if we return to here where it says clause notes, you'll notice here we have this little chart. We have compound sentences and complex sentences, and of course this leaves us to the space for our words of the day, and those are compound, composed of two or more elements, and complex, consisting of many different and connected parts. The way I remember the nuanced difference between them is that, as you can see here in the definition for complex, it's saying that at least some of these parts have to be different, right? Compound is just saying, okay, it's made up of two or more parts. But for complex, at least some of those parts have to be different, whether in shape or in color or in size, you tell me. So if you think about that, okay, compound, made up of two or more parts, it's not necessarily saying that they have to be different. But complex, you know, some of those parts have to be different, right? So that reminds me, okay, if we translate that to grammar, our compound is, if we have two independent clauses in this case, that's a compound. Notice they're the same. But complex, meaning at least some of those parts have to be different. So when we have a dependent clause, an independent clause, it doesn't matter the order. So I say that because that's precisely what we have here. What kind of clause is this? Look at this. Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz. It's expressing the idea completely. We have our subject, we have our verb, and that is an independent clause. But it was hard to concentrate because of the noise. This here is a dependent clause. So we put them together and we have compound or complex. Complex. Other thing you can do is use what's called an independent marker word to put these clauses together. Check this one out. Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz, semicolon. However, it was hard to concentrate because of the noise. So with these independent marker words, I'm going to go to this link now. We actually do this when we're speaking, and that is, we can interrupt our flow, take a little break, and then resume. For example, we should talk about Taylor's grades. Additionally, we should discuss her behavior. So notice, blah, 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 break, blah, 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 resume. Writing, to me, language is a lot like rhythm, is a lot like music. I think of it like that. But this independent marker word is actually marking independent clauses. That's how I remember it. Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz. That's an independent clause. It's expressing the idea completely, and it was hard to concentrate because of the noise. It's marking those clauses, right? Now, the other thing too that you may notice is that we have blah, 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 semicolon, and then insert one of the independent marker words, and then comma. That's the formula that we follow. And you might be saying semicolon. Gee, I actually always wondered, Mr. Godoy, when we use the semicolon. Let's talk about that for a moment. So semicolon. So glad, okay. So of course, so beyond using them for independent marker, with independent marker, with beyond using them with independent markers, semicolons have two requisites, and those are one, must be used between independent clauses, right? And two, both clauses must be topically related. I have an example for you. Okay, so the semicolon must be used between independent clauses and both clauses have to be related. I have an example for you. I went to the hardware store. They had the hammer that I wanted. Went to the hardware store, that's one clause. They had the hammer that I wanted. Notice how both of those are independent clause and they are both topically related. So this is where the semicolon would go, right? Let's go ahead and make that a bright color. That was a little bit harder to see, wasn't it? Let's go ahead and use this one. Awesome. So once again, semicolons have to be used for independent clauses that are topically related. I went to the hardware store. They had the hammer that I wanted. Or, I don't know. I was late to school. Semicolon. My professor had already started the lecture, right? They're topically related and they're independent clauses. So that's one thing to remember about semicolons. If you didn't know how to use them, of course you learn now. Awesome. They might be saying, hey, Mr. Godoy, couldn't I just put a period here? I went to the hardware store, period. Start a new sentence. They had the hammer that I wanted. Absolutely, you can. The choice is yours. A semicolon is just another tool in your box, in your toolbox, right? Here's some other examples for our independent marker words. Let's return to this. That car was too slow for me. Besides, it was too expensive. I love that writer's latest novel. Moreover, her book of poetry is beautifully written. So, blah, 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 semicolon, independent marker goes in here, comma, and then you have the other independent clause, right? So that is it for the independent marker words. You can pause it and rewatch it if you have a question. We talked about types of sentences, right? Remember that complex is the definition where some of the parts have to be different, right? So that's why we have dependent and independent. We have two independent clauses, that's compound. Now, I just mentioned, okay, the whole point of today is for you to have different tools in your toolbox and recognize as a writer, you can express the things in many ways. You can play with grammar just like artists play with the different tones of colors, right? So this all says the same thing, but the effect is different. So look, of course you can have two sentences. I went to the store, period. I didn't buy any bread. You can use we can use a semicolon, right? Now you know, okay, the requisites are must be independent clauses and both clauses must be topically related. That means it here. Look, I went to the store, semicolon, I didn't buy any bread. You could use a coordinating conjunction, which is one of the fanboys. I went to the store, comma, but I didn't buy any bread. You can use independent marker. I went to the store, semicolon, however, comma, I didn't buy any bread. You can make, what kind of sentence is this? Dependent clause and independent. When I went to the store, I didn't buy any bread. What do we think? Is this a compound or a complex sentence? Well, remember, complex is the one that, pardon, complex is the definition where some of the parts have to be different, right? So, of course, it's a complex sentence. We have dependent clause and independent clause. Or you can just put it together. I didn't buy any bread when I went to the store. Join them as a sentence. So the choice is yours. The more you read, you'll realize, hey, some writers like to have long sentences. Others are more terse, like Ernest Hemingway. And the choice is yours. All right, here's a little game now. Let's go ahead and try it. I want you to try it. I want you to copy this link, and I want you to go to this website. And try this out. Oh, quest not found. Sorry about that. So I don't know. It was where it was working a moment ago. My apologies there, guys. All right. So we were going to play a game, independent clause and dependent clause quiz. Okay. Let's see. Okay, this works. This is exactly like how we were looking at it anyway. I will be so upset. Just look at what is in red. Is that expressing the idea completely or not? Sure it is. Independent. While I enjoy eating any type of food, dependent, right? Doesn't make sense on its own. We're left like yes, and because notice we have here that dependent marker word. So what about here? When you arrive, yes, when you arrive, what? I can't remember his name. I want you to keep trying this, guys. See how you do. Who is in the police force? Yeah. I believe. Ooh, here's a tricky one. Is this a complete idea? Believe it or not, we have our subject. I believe, right? Just like we could say I think, I read, I sit, I eat, right? It's a complete idea. So I want you to try the rest of them, guys. Please see how you do. All right, my friends. That's it for this one. I hope this one helps. And that's it for this clauses one. And we can move forward to the next one. I want you to open this one. Actually, that's for me. All right, here are some of the common errors that we see. It's all going to connect, right, with clauses. Run-ons, comma splices, and fragments. So a run-on runs on and on. It's when you jam clauses together without proper separation, right? If we're going to say this one, this is a great class, the teacher never finishes on time. You can use one of the fanboys, right? This is a great class, comma, but the teacher never finishes on time. What about this one? It's now 1 o'clock, let's start the workshop. See, we've jammed these two clauses together. It's now 1 o'clock, so let's start the workshop. Of course, you can use one of the fanboys. That's what it is. A run-on has clauses just jammed and jammed and jammed, right? We gotta separate them. We use one of the fanboys, or you can start a new sentence, which is another way, right? These examples are a little bleak. Sorry about that. The global food crisis is a threat to Africa. Many children are dying of hunger. As you can see, it's a run-on. You can start new sentences, right? The global food crisis is a threat to Africa, period. Many children are dying of hunger, period. You can use one of the semicolons because they are independent clauses and they're topically related, right? It's another option. or you can join them, make the sentence make more sense. As a result of the global food crisis in Africa, this is a dependent clause, many children are dying of hunger. This is an independent clause, thus making a complex sentence, right? Here is another thing that is called comma splice. Comma splice is simply when you use a comma to separate independent clauses. You shouldn't do that. That's a comma splice. But instead, you can use a semicolon or start new sentences, right? College is hard, comma. The expectations are higher than high school. Professor assigns too much homework, comma. I don't have much free time. These are independent clauses, right? Don't use a comma. Either start a new sentence or use a semicolon. Or use one of the fanboys, right? For and or, comma, for and or yet but so. Once again, the whole idea of today is not to become like overly worried or be a grammar Nazi, but just say, oh, have some exposure to this, right? This course for like the final draft, and just it's not fair to you. Like I never cover this, right? All right. So, yep, like I said, start a new sentence or put them together, right? College is hard because expectations are higher than high school. Use one of the fanboys. College is hard, comma, for the expectations are higher than high school. Another one, a fragment. So literally a fragment is a piece of something. If I were to get like a vase, a vase that holds flowers, and I drop it and I pick up a shard, that's a fragment. It's a piece of it. So in grammar, a fragment is a piece of a thought. It's a piece of a thought. It's incomplete. Like for example, whenever she asks, as this was a great opportunity, finding nowhere to turn. A lot of times when we say, okay, a piece, we're missing the subject, so who is doing it? Sometimes we don't have a verb, we don't have an action. And believe it or not, I actually have a good one for you. And I see this all the time on the road. This is a big fragment. And I always see this on trucks. Look at this. There's more to prime. A truckload more. Where's the fragment? A truckload more, of course. That's a fragment. So next time you see that truck, you can think, hey, there goes a fragment. All right. So, if you don't know who we're talking about, who's the subject, you can make that clear, right? Finding nowhere to turn. Here they clarified it. So, sorry again, they're kind of bleak. The young man turned to drugs and alcohol. Ooh. What about this one? You can join them. My uncle always gives Janet the car whenever she asks. So remember, it's up to you how you develop your style. Sometimes you can have short sentences, long ones. It's up to you. Kind of think of it like you have all these tools in your toolbox and you have the power. You got the power. All right, let's try this. Let's try this quiz here. Let's go ahead and try this quiz. Oh, awesome, it worked. I'll try a few with you, and then I want you to try the rest on your own. Okay, so we're going to determine if it's a fragment, comma, spice, wrong, or if it's correct. So we can say money for a Florida trip. So we can say money for a Florida trip. Fragment, right? Incomplete thought. Since I'll be going to Mexico this summer, once again, although I've been working 15 hours a week, I'm always broke. Although I've been working 15 hours a week, I'm always broke. So what kind of sentence do we have here? Although I've been working 15 hours a week, is what? Dependent or independent clause? If you said dependent, you're right. Because of this although, right? I'm always broke is an independent. So this is actually a complex sentence. I want you to try the rest, see how you do. All right, moving along nicely here. So next, we have this one, paragraphs and transitions. Let's open this one. So, in our paragraph, we want to generally stay with a single topic. You don't want to have jam too many things in there. Remember, too, that there should be a main idea to your paragraph. That's called the topic sentence, and the rest are supporting sentences. You want to make sure that you're connecting from topic to topic. Those are called transitions, as we're going to see in a moment. Some things you can do in paragraphs, right? You can give examples, anecdotes, define terms, expand on whatever your topic is. So you want to start new ones when you start a new point or idea. Sometimes I've read some drafts, like paragraphs are like massive like this. You want to separate those, right? It's hard on the reader. Obviously, contrast info. Maybe one paragraph is about, I don't know. I'll give you an example. When I was in school, I did a project on like the harms of energy drinks. That was my project. And like one paragraph was about like, how it affects your heart rate. The other was about how it affects your sleeping. So like you have different paragraphs. Of course, your intro, conclusion, they're different ones. What I said about right now about my project, you can't just go from talking about your heart rate to your sleeping without that bridge, right? So you want to find a point of commonality from one topic to the next, and you do that within the paragraph as much as from one paragraph to the next. You always want to find those points of commonality as you're moving from one topic to the next. You don't just want to just jump into it, right? Because that's jarring. Here's some examples of some transition words that could help you on your journey as you're creating these bridges. Well, this is a good one. Sometimes too, as writers, we have a transition in our head as we're writing something from one topic to the next, but we don't write it, so it's easy to lose the reader in doing it that way, right? We always need a transition. If you've ever gotten a feedback like, hey, this is choppy or jarring, then that means, hey, you need some transitions, friend. Here's a good one. Look at this. I have 7 pairs of red shoes. I don't have any purple shoes. I don't need to buy more shoes. There's no money in the bank. So we're missing a transition here. Like, how are we going to put this together? See how one moment we're talking about our shoes, and then we're talking about our bank account. That's a big jump. Maybe the writer was trying to say something like, I have 7 pairs of red shoes, yet I don't have any purple shoes. Also, I don't need to buy more shoes. Even if I wanted to, I don't have money in the bank. So they're saying this part, there's no money in the bank, as a way to support their last statement that they don't need to buy more shoes. Like, even if they wanted to, they can't even afford it, right? Here's another one. Same thing, where we have a claim and we have something that they said to try to support it, but we're missing a transition. Check this out. Going back to college will be difficult. I haven't been in school for over 10 years. I'm married with 4 children. I'll try my best to balance work, family, and school. So notice how they talk about being married with 4 kids after talking about going to college. Why? Well, because these are obstacles that will make it difficult to go back to college, right? Their claim was it would be hard to go back to college. Why? For these reasons. I haven't been to school for over 10 years. I'm married with 4 children. But it's like, so if we were to read this, we could say something like with a transition, something like, going back to college will be difficult because I haven't been in school for over 10 years. Additionally, I'm married with 4 children. Despite these obstacles, I'll try my best to balance work, family, and school. See, we got transitions there. So remember, have bridges. And your task for this week, right here, we have 2 paragraphs without transitions, and you are going to create a transition. Check this out. Video games are a popular pastime for many people around the world. Their popularity exceeds many other leisure activities. In fact, many people even spend countless hours watching others stream themselves playing video games on a platform known as Twitch. These Twitch streamers can sometimes even have millions of subscribers. In Fortnite, players combat against one another to be the last one standing. Matches usually last for about 20 minutes. One of the cool things about Fortnite is that players can select from different characters or skins. Some of these skins are more uncommon than others. Where is our jump where we need a transition? Well, look, here we're talking about video games being popular. And in order to support that, we said, hey, they're so popular that could you believe that countless people watch others play video games? That's how popular they are. So we're talking about video games in a general sense, and then we just jump into Fortnite. So what does Fortnite have to do with what we're talking about here? What's the point of commonality? What is the bridge? That's your task, and you could do something as simple as like one of the more popular video games that is streamed is Fortnite. So you can have your transition, and I'll probably make it yellow just to make it stand out, and it's something like that, something as easy as this. You just want to have a bridge between this topic of video games being popular, so popular that, you know, people even watch others stream, and this game, right? If not, that's jarring. That's your task. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for checking out this lesson, y'all. Hope it helps. And remember, this is just some fundamentals. You can rewatch this video. So thanks for watching.